Hello, and welcome to the Wandering Gamer Network's campaign retrospective for Corsairs of Castille. We like to do these post-game wrap-ups to finish out our campaigns before setting off on our next adventure, which is, by Zach, is going to be a Weird West system. But before we dive into that, we get to grill Zach and ourselves, I guess, and ask a bunch of questions about the game and what we liked and what we wished went differently, and all that fun behind-the-scenes stuff. So, Zach, are you ready?
Never. I don't have to plan anything for like 3 months. I am as unready as possible.
Perfect. So, was it the setting of this kind of like Three Musketeers Renaissance sort of deal that attracted you to the idea of the game, or like inspired you most when starting it? Or was it the 7th Sea system that we did for this one? Or like what made you decide like Corsairs as a game was something you wanted to do?
So it was a couple of things. First, I was like trying to do a Call of Cthulhu game, and it was just not working. Like I could not figure out what I wanted to do, and was dreading it the whole time.
Just like in your head.
Yeah, like I was trying to like work things out, like what I wanted to do, and everything was derivative in a not good way.
Yeah.
Or it's like, I could just do Darkest Dungeon, and I'm like, that feels unfair to a lot of people.
Why would I do a worse Darkest Dungeon? Yeah.
You were joking about how it was derivative in a not good way, but we played 7th Sea. I mean, I don't necessarily say that this was derivative in a bad way, but
I think there's derivative and there's tropey, you know?
That's true. Yeah. I guess that's a fair thing.
Anyway, but what was it that you came
Well,
to
then I was like, it was around this time that like posts were going around about like how like in 7th Sea, like mechanically in the rules, like you can't accidentally die to like a goblin.
Okay. Yeah.
And that had me look into it, and I'm like, oh, this seems interesting. The setting seems fun. So I checked it out, and it seemed like, at a glance, it seemed pretty decent. And I'm like, oh, why don't we do that? And then I had some ideas and went from there.
Okay. And then what was your least favorite and most favorite part of 7th Sea as a system? And then, like, our game.
Oh, the rules are just... There's so much I don't like about 7th Sea after having played it. And, like, I feel bad because...
Sorry to the creators of 7th Sea. We're sure you're wonderful people.
They seem really involved and they really like it, but there's a lot of flaws to the system on a GM side that made us kind of abandon the entire system by the end.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking for, like, a really faithful representation of the rules of 7th Sea, you should find a different podcast.
I don't think we've faithfully done the rules to anything.
That's fair. That's fair.
With the exception of Outlaws Wanted, because Cody made the system.
Right.
And every time we broke a rule, he's just said, that's the new rule.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, every time there's a rule we didn't like, we just changed it because we could.
Right. So rules was your least favorite.
Though the thing that I hated most about the rules is the way it's supposed to work is before anyone rolls, I'm supposed to say one, like, what is it, success? Whatever they were called. Like, 110 was supposed to be a success. And then I was supposed to list off, like, obstacles for you to avoid, treasure for you to find, information you could get, all before you guys roll. And then you'd roll, and then you could pick and choose from that buffet I put out before you.
For every single roll.
For every single roll.
And another thing that was, if I understand it right, which I might not, I think it was also supposed to be, like, before each roll, everyone declares their approach. That was like a thing in the rules of your approach. And that's where you say what you're trying to do and what stats you're going to use to try to roll that. And everyone does that before anybody rolls. And that was important for me because a lot of my magic, which we can talk about this later, a lot of the magic, the Vestin Minavanyar magic, relies on that ordering, and it just doesn't work otherwise.
Oh, okay. Well, I think also
like
Zach was supposed to pick what we roll with, right? Like,
yeah, I'm supposed to pick what you roll with. Like, you tell me an approach, and then I assign what you're rolling with. Which is, like, it's just, like, so DM heavy of, like, I have to run, like, it's basically, I am, like, doing everything but the dialogue bits of this game. And that's a lot.
Yeah, and like as a group, we generally do a more collaborative approach.
Right, but it's to the point where it's like I'm picking what stats you roll, and that is a lot of work on my end. Where I'm like, if you want to roll something, and you're like, I want to like look around, you know, like you're like, can I use perception? I'm like, oh yeah, go for it. You know, it's not like,
Yeah.
I look around and I'm like, well, you seem to be doing that, like, wittily, so, like.
Yeah, yeah. So what did you like about the 7th Sea system, if anything?
Exploding dice is always fun. I like how you get to roll more dice. Like, that's a fun thing. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot of potential in it, but, like, nothing, like, I felt like was, like, super landed well for me that I'm like, this is why you should play this system.
Mm-hmm. Your miles may vary, but for us, that's the
right. It's just like, sorry, Mandy, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think for me, part of like what I struggled with the dice system is, and there's a very high chance that we were not playing it fully the way we were supposed to, but it felt like there was no way to fail. Like there was very rarely a point where we failed. Personally, I like the games where there's like fail, partial success, because I feel like narratively that works really well and it works really well for our group. But with this, you know, we're doing the skills that every once in a while we would do a skill that we weren't trained in, but generally we were doing the skills that we were trained in, and it just meant that we were rolling tons of dice, and I would say 9 out of 10 times you're succeeding. And so it feels like, why am I rolling the dice?
And you can't roll a nat 1 in this system. You know,
you can, but it like the amount of probability you're getting into.
Yeah, that's fair. Like with the amount of dice you're rolling, yeah. Like you could theoretically not make a 10, but I don't think that ever happened in the 40 hours that we played, which is, you know. So.
Well, because like I'm in like, you know, like what's the chances of rolling 3 or under on 3 dice in a row? And it's like you guys were always rolling 3 or more dice.
Yeah.
And the system literally, like, it's meant to be you can't fail. Like, if you get 1 success, you succeed. And I'm like, that is just really hard as a DM.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and that surprised me when I first heard that you only had to succeed with one. You only had 1 raise, and then you did it. And I was like, I was shocked, because I was like, I was expecting it to be like, oh, Zach sets how many you have to get, and because it kind of felt like, was it Star Wars, I think, that I'm thinking of, that, like, it adds up how many successes you get.
Yeah, and they, like, cancel out each other.
I think so. Yeah, so I thought that's what was gonna happen, is like, oh, Zach would set, like, this is a particularly hard one, so you have to get 3 successes.
Which I think we had kind of drifted to as the game wore on.
Too in the end.
But yeah.
Yeah, I think especially in combat with villains, with like the big fights, it was all opposed checks, right? You would roll whatever they rolled, we'd have to beat that.
Yeah. So do you have a least favorite and most favorite thing about our game of Corsairs, not just the system of 7th Sea? Zach.
I'm thinking. I mean, I like you guys. Like, I liked playing with you guys. I liked having you guys have more freedom in it. It was fun to see where you.
Oh no, that was the good part.
It means he loves us.
Well, like I mean, like I don't know what you wanted to say. Is like you guys are fun to play with. It's like I don't have a favorite moment because there's a lot of things I liked about playing with you guys. Where it's like, oh, this one specific thing didn't stand out. I think like the paths you guys took to take care of things was fun and not always what I expected. Like Nostroy and Sigrith going to get a cart and then getting blackmailed by the what was it, Undertakers or Gravediggers?
Guild, yeah.
And then Cody going and being like, I'm gonna gamble for a horse. Fails the gambling check. Like, oh, I have an ability where I can just have them give me the horse. I got the horse. They gave me the horse that I can trade. And then he's walking back to the cart. He's like, I could have used that ability to get the cart.
So, speaking of things that you least expected, is there anywhere, like, we went as a party that you least expected us to go? Like, metaphorically speaking. And how did you originally imagine it going?
I don't think I have, like, a least expected. I mean, like, playing with you guys is always least expected. Or rather, put it in a nicer way, it's like, there's a point to which I plan, and then I'm like, at this point, it does not matter what I say. We're not getting this far.
Right, yeah. And I think you're shifting in your approach to planning of, like, less is more. and just having like certain building blocks and knowing that we'll play with them instead of like trying to build the building blocks and watch us knock them down.
Yeah, I don't know, like, if anything was like so much where I was like, oh no, what are you guys doing?
Like they've fully gone off the rails and over the ravine and into the jungle. Yeah.
But I've also been playing with you guys for what, 8 years now? I think I can handle.
Yeah.
I know where the limit is.
Right. Are there any parts of the city or factions that you had like originally imagined that we didn't get to explore for whatever reason?
Not a ton, because you guys went through most of them in a checklist like between planning sessions in the last arc that you like hit most things. There's like some tidbits here and there that you guys could have done more with. Like you guys could have figured out earlier on that Isabel was the person keeping the rift open or stuff like that.
Yeah, we found that out. I was like, oh, totally did. They're like, all the pieces are there, and it just didn't.
Right, yeah. There was a few things you guys could have dove deeper into had you wanted to, but I don't think it was at the cost of the story you didn't. They were more... Or like, because like, Isabel was the person who was like, the reason none of Equilibrium was ever found is like, Isabel was actively inflaming conflict between factions, which you guys could have figured out earlier if you like really pursued her. Mm-hmm. But the one time you guys pursued her, you're like, where is she going? And then like, she caught you guys because you rolled bad on sneak checks, and then never followed her again.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is not a problem. It was just like, there was more information to be had at points, but like, that's, you know, what the rules of 3, where you just drop a lot of hints about everything.
Right. All right. Enough from Zach from now. You don't get to talk.
Cool.
Now everybody else gets to talk.
I'm gonna play
so
solitaire.
This is for everybody. How did your character change from, like, conception to endgame?
Cody, you haven't said much. You want to go first?
I can go first on that. So... I am trying to remember, and Zach, you can fill in on this if I'm wrong about it. Was my character from planning pretty similar to what I started playing? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I have some pretty wild ideas on a character, and then, like, those don't always make it to the table.
I would say he was pretty on the nose. The funniest thing is, like, I got a message from Cody, so Cody writes out everything about Nostra for me. And then he, like, texts me, like, 2 days later. He's like, I am playing Kaladin, and I hate myself for it.
Oh, yeah.
From Stormlight Archive, yeah.
Because I think Neostroy, like, I knew issues that I wanted him to have from the start, but I didn't know how those were going to take shape in the game exactly. So, like, I knew that he was going to be, like, potentially resentful of nobles that abuse power. I knew that he was kind of going to be like maybe a little bit cynical and cruel at times, but then like had a soft spot for children and for like people who were abandoned by their families. And I think that played out pretty well in the game just because of what happened with Isabel, that she was, like, actually truly a correct heir. Like, that kind of then made her the most relatable character to Neostroy in the game, which drastically, I think, changed kind of the direction that Neostroy went, because it made him, like, rethink what he was doing. So I like that at the end, he's like, well, no, he still thinks that people need to learn hard lessons and that sometimes cruelty is necessary for that. But I think that that comes with, like, a great deal less hostility towards others.
And more empathy.
By default.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and I think that it also is broader now, that he, like, goes, like, okay, and I think that that's because of seeing, like, Isabel as a person who has failed by a lot of people and still deserves a second chance, because it's someone that he feels like he failed. So, I liked that growth, and that the story kind of allowed that opportunity. That was not necessarily planned, that he was going to do that, so I liked
organically came. Yeah.
Latitude was there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Who's next?
I can talk about mine. I would say, at conception, Lena, the big thing that I wanted to do for her was I really liked the idea of playing somebody who was like naturally, like there were a couple things that she was naturally gifted at, and then everything else she just kind of refused to try. And also being much more like flippant. And I would say I didn't really get to do that first part as much just because of,
we had a lot of sword fighters around.
You know, there was a lot of sword fighting, which is like, was the primary thing that she was gifted at. But then there was also, like, it's not like we were going, like, we were fighting. Like, the campaign was fighting and talking to people. It wasn't really forcing her out of her comfort zone as much. So, kind of abandoned that pretty early on in the campaign. And really just stuck with the fact that she didn't like magic because she couldn't do it. Which was probably the only remnant of that. And then the flippant nature, that changed about halfway through, I think, because I think she, like, the dealing with her family, just made it a more serious thing.
Right.
Than when we first got back. So I think that was, like, the biggest change that she went through.
It became more personal and she had to care and set that aside. Yeah. I gotcha.
Exactly.
Nice.
All right, you or Vinny?
Okay, I can talk about mine. So I actually I pulled up the
that you wrote out
introduction thing.
Oh, that's smart.
Where we like answered the questions that we I pulled up that to read through it.
Yeah.
I don't think Sigartha really changed much at all from what I imagined her. I think she basically stayed the same from what I started with, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Just but
yeah.
It was also a fairly simple character to play.
Yeah, no.
She fights.
No tweaks.
She's a fighter.
That's
really all I did with her, which is the one thing, and I kind of referenced this earlier. I guess I can talk about this now with the magic. That is something I wanted to be a bigger part of the character was the use of the runes, and it came up a few times, but not.
I could see that
in as big of a way as I was hoping. Mostly because they're like the list of magic I had available to me. A lot of it just didn't make sense to do at any particular time, and it was just easier to hit the problem.
No, I feel the same way. If I can transition into Cormac, unless you had anything else,
go for it.
Yeah, because Cormac has magic, and he's also got like the whole Knights of Avalon thing, and that's a much bigger deal in the rules of the game. And there's like a code that you follow, and I was not super good about keeping tabs on that. And his magic just didn't come up a ton. So like I had written all this stuff out on my character sheet, but like I don't think that came through a lot in like mechanically playing the game. But I think that the biggest change is like Cormac at the start like sets out to be like I'm going to be famous, and then like grows as a person and like decides like, okay, that's not the only thing in life. And that like wanting to be with Catalina, like you can be in love with an idea of someone and not actually that person. And so like once he changes course on that, he changes course on a lot of other things as well. So I think that's the biggest change. And I don't remember if that was how much I planned that out. I don't know if Zach remembers, but I think that might have just like come up in the middle of the game, and then I just went with it.
I wanted to reference how like you're saying how Cormac wanted to be famous. That was the original conception, and that we referred to that throughout the series of names. Cormac O'Rourke, you may have heard of me. And then he becomes Spy Master. So, like, if you have heard of him, he's not a very good Spy Master.
Right, yeah. No, that was, like, very intentional. Is like, as it goes on, like, that's something that stayed the same from the beginning, is, like, his magic is, like, from the Knight. The Knight is Pega the Forgotten. So it's, like, directly in conflict with his own personal goals. But, like, the magic that he's saddled with is, like, going against that. So it's kind of, like, embracing that magic and, yeah. So yeah, favorites for everyone. So list off your favorite NPC, your favorite faction in the city, or at least like the most fun to deal with, even if it wasn't like the one that you liked the most per se. And then the favorite scene for your character.
I think my favorite character was Isabel, just because I didn't know that was going to happen, and it mattered a lot for my character. And that wasn't like...
Not Jonathan?
No. And that wasn't like planned out. So I was like, oh, that was like a nice twist that I think had more emotional weight to the character than I think maybe Zach planned for, which not to say that's a bad thing, but it was like an emergent thing. You know what I mean? That I was like...
Yeah, Zach did it, and then... It was like, oh, this is a big deal.
Yeah, this is like earth-shattering for Neostroy in a lot of ways. So I liked that character, and you said favorite faction, right?
Or like most fun to deal with, even if you didn't like them.
With the Isabel thing, Caitlin did say, like, why did you make this character that just really inflamed Nostri to me at one point? And I'm like, sorry. It's good storytelling.
I think I liked... I don't like them, but I liked the cultist Falche, even though I really didn't interact with them much, but I just, I hate them, and that's like a powerful emotion to have about a faction. So I enjoyed the cultist Falche for that. And then I think my favorite scene, I'm gonna say kind of like 2 for like a personal scene, and then for like a, what's it called? Like a fun scene. I think maybe the interaction like after Neostroy kind of like set up Magdalena dueling her brother in public to shame him. I thought that was a well done scene of those two characters being mad at each other. Cause I think that Magdalena and Neostroy had a lot of good scenes, and I thought that was like one of the better ones. And then I think just like the scene of like stealing or kidnapping that guy, where it was like it just went wrong. All of it just went wrong. Like it was just like a comedy of errors trying to kidnap this guy. And that's one of those ones where it's like, you know, sometimes you make your own fun in a game. And I think when we started, Zach was like, okay, so you've kidnapped that guy. And I was like, we actually haven't done that yet. And I want to go through the process. And then it was like just a disaster. Like just like
the most fun
putting a bag on
disaster.
Yeah. So that was a good time just because it was like fun and silly, you know. And
that disaster was especially fun because like afterwards, like, okay, the scene's done. Cody's like, so we're in the wagon. How's it going? To the wife you kidnapped. And she's like sobbing. And you're like, I think this went well.
I'll go. I wrote down all my answers so I would actually remember it. I would say my favorite NPC was Miguel. I really liked... I always pick the antagonists that I get to spar with. But I really enjoyed all of the scenes that we had with him, and I thought he was a great antagonist for us to play against. My favorite faction was the Duke's Rebellion. I kind of wish we had seen them a lot more later on. But I just really like the idea of like a small rebellious group. And when we did talk with like cause like I really liked their leader.
Adriana.
When it started with an A, but like.
Oh, Adriana.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. But I really liked her, and I liked, I don't know. I love the idea of, like, the small, rebellion.
And I think when we world built them, too, like, with, like, the symbols, the roses that they left around the city as graffiti, and, like, that whole aesthetic, yeah.
There was a lot to them and a lot to the aesthetic, and, I've made it no secret to you guys, but, like, one of my favorite books is, oh my god, my brain just stopped. But it's a Tamara Pierce books. Trickster's Choice. Trickster's Secret and Trickster's Choice by Tamara Pierce. And, it is like the whole idea is like this small rebellious group that can, that overtakes the, monarchy in the area. And I kind of, a lot of the ideas that I had for the Duke's Rebellion came from the spy work that they do in that book, because it's just I love it. It's so intricate, and I think that's a big reason why I ended up liking the Duke's Rebellion as much as I did. And then my favorite scene, I kind of have 2. I would say I really liked our fight with the Gravediggers.
Oh, yeah.
are split up. It was Sigurdur and I, and like all of the, between the combat and the like talking going on between us, and then Njostroy and Cormac, who's your monster?
Friar Lewis? Yeah. Yeah, that whole setting up of, like, taking over Magnus and, like, doing the switcheroo, which became our signature move.
I feel like in this setting, because of how the roles ended up being, splitting up was one of the best things we did for the party in that situation, because it made it like feel like, oh shoot, are we going to actually be able to pull this off?
Right, because we didn't have all of the skills in all of the places. Yeah.
Exactly. And then my part 2 is one of the most fun, like the most fun I had with the scene was the stupid heist for Senor Santiago's house.
Yeah.
That was just so stupid, and just like I enjoyed it so much. Just
the only
fun.
the only reason I didn't pick that one as one of my favorite scenes was because it went too well.
Right.
Like,
That's
I was
fair.
like, that was like great because it was like all of us worked together and achieved our goal. The other one was like, we worked together. It did not go great. We needed backup.
I think it's less that it's like it went well, yeah, but it was more that we were just laughing the entire time from the ridiculousness of it.
And it was nice to, like, come back, especially at the end of a campaign where you've, like, done all this stuff. It's getting a little heavy, you know, you've had a lot of big things happen.
Oh,
and just
1,000%.
To go back to your roots of, like, this is wild, we're just a party of weirdos, you know?
Yeah, exactly. All right, that's my answers. Check.
Do you want me to go first, Finny?
Yeah, go for it if you have your answers.
Okay. Favorite NPC, I will say Jonathan, just because it is really funny to watch Zach annoy everyone with Jonathan.
Jonathan is a treasure, and I have no regrets.
And just, like, listening back to, like, when we go to the Jardinillos where the werewolves are, and just, like, the stupid hijinks that we get to, like, licking the rocks, and, you know, Jonathan and Fang's interactions, just, like, the odd couple stuff there, and it was really fun.
Do you want to know what's nice about Jonathan? It's a fun thing I was telling you about the other day.
Yeah.
Is like I had a character similar to Jonathan in City of Mist, and it was Lennox Willis. And you guys at the beginning of that, you're like, we're going to let Zach talk for as long as we go to make him feel uncomfortable. And now, whenever Jonathan speaks, you guys like, we have to cut him off sooner.
Like, where's the pause button? Yeah.
We have to find.
You discovered the secret.
You guys are annoyed by him now because I'm too good at just rambling on forever.
Right. No, he's just fun to throw into things, especially when we're all trying to be serious, so I enjoyed that.
One of my favorite lines from the entire campaign is when you guys were trying to convince Thrasher to join you, and you're like, well, the real Catalina. And it was like, the real Catalina, and trying to explain the whole background plot to an NPC. And then Jonathan just chimes in, it's like, maybe the real Catalina is the friends we made along the way. And all 4 of you look at me and yell at me, no!
It was a lot of fun, yeah. Favorite faction in this city, I think, which we didn't deal with a ton, but whenever we did, it was always interesting, was the Explorers Guild. Like, they were just, like, so mysterious and weird and unknowable. And, like, the things that we had to barter was, like, what does that mean that you give up a secret? Or, like, what are you gonna do with it, buddy? So I enjoyed that. And, like, the fun artifacts we got. Like, being able to change somebody's appearance, because that was, you know, our signature move.
Didn't change the entire game in any way.
Right, yeah. Should we have talked about that when, where did the party go that you least expected us to go? Changing our faces every 5 seconds. And then favorite scene for your character. I have a couple. I really liked Cormac talking with Njostroy after we broke out of jail. And, like, that conversation, like, Cormac connecting, like, maybe we shouldn't just reinstate the monarchy, with, like, maybe I shouldn't just be, like, want to be, like, the famous one. Like, I liked that dual path. And then, like, also having a heart-to-heart with Njostroy, because, like, previously, I don't know that we had.
Yeah, it was later in the game, I feel like, that we had, like, a real connection as characters, yeah, for sure.
Right, yeah. And then I think the other one, I just really like the Masquerade. Like, I remember like just going into it. It was just like, oh yeah, we get to do a masquerade. We have all these scenes, like all these things are happening. Like masquerades are just fun. And like fighting with Catalina and like that whole terrible conversation was fun. And then like, meeting Isabel in person for the first time was also fun. And it's like, how can you not want to dance and wear masks and have party? I don't know. That's just an enjoyable aesthetic for a game like this. That's all for me.
So the problem is my answers aren't going to be original because I was thinking some of the same things.
I mean, it's still your own reason for liking it, you know.
I also really like Jonathan, partly because anytime an NPC can really frustrate Cody is fun to watch. And I always like having that comic relief character in a serious campaign. I enjoy that. Favorite guild, I'd probably also say the Cults of Falche, partly because I'm the one that came up with it in world building, and I still think it's kind of a fun thing. And then my character also got to kind of experience that firsthand. And in the way that Sigarther kind of left to become vigilante justice around the world, that's basically what the Cultus Falche is. So I just thought it was, I don't know, just kind of resonated with me. Even if their methods are a bit extreme, it's still a fun guild to deal with. And my favorite scene has got to be the fight with the Gravediggers. Mm-hmm. Because it was like it was like an unbalanced fight. We shouldn't have won that fight. And it was very much Sigarther was put in a position of, we have to win this fight, and so she won the fight. Yeah. Yeah, well, and then there was like that bit where it's like, Sigarther's gone. The rest of us don't know where you are, you know. Which is a fun aspect too.
Yeah, that was good. That was a while ago and I forgot about it, but that was good. Yeah, and it was like, at that moment, it was very much, I wouldn't have, like, there would have been a part of me that would have been a little upset, but not, more just because, oh, this character's gone. But if Zach had killed my character there, I would have understood and been fine with it.
Right, yeah, because it was like 30-1, right?
It was a dumb thing that I did. It was like, that was very dumb.
I don't hate anyone enough to make them redo character creation in 7th Sea.
Oh.
That's actually my least favorite thing about 7th Sea is character creation is an absolute nightmare.
Oh.
Like, once you have a character, like, the system is okay at points. Making a character is an absolute nightmare.
I feel like I must not have done character creation right then if it was that hard, because I just don't remember it being that difficult. But I probably did it wrong.
Okay, I get to do my questions now.
Yes.
About the NPC. I think my favorite NPC is Jean-Luc. I really liked him. I thought he was fun. I like how...
Oh, Jean-Luc, yeah.
Jean-Luc was probably a second for me.
Obviously, like, I love playing Catalina. Like, she was fun, but she's also the obvious answer. But, like, Jean-Luc is, like, the one that, like, came out of, like, nowhere. Then I'm like, oh, this guy's great. Where Catalina, like, I thought about a lot the whole time. Like, there was a lot of, like, me just pondering Catalina and her responses to you guys, where it's like, well, how is she going to handle all of this? I don't know what my favorite faction is. Isabel? I liked Isabel.
Yeah, that can be a favorite.
She was a fun villain. I liked her being like, I liked how you guys dealt with her. I liked how she was in charge. Alright, favorite scenes for every character. I liked fighting with Lena as Catalina when she's like, you're not being serious enough, and Catalina's just like, f*** off, I am. I liked Vinny or Sigarther convincing the werewolves, where it's like Thrasher's trying to posture, and then like Sigarther rolled like 10 successes and knocked him out cold immediately. I liked Isabel just really knocking Cormac down 14 pegs. When it's just like, you're not
brutal.
She was so brutal. It was brutal enough that Caitlin's face dropped when I said it. And then, for best reaction of the entire game, I liked Cody interacting with the head of the Sorcerers of Porte, or Nostra, where it's like, oh, I don't speak to the help, and Cody's like, I'm gonna murder you in the street. And he's like, I don't go on the streets because I'm not poor. And Cody's like, I hate him so much.
Yeah, that was a time when I feel like you sort of were like, oh, this is the big bad of the thing, and I'm like, he's not making it out. Like, Nostra was being good, and like, it can't come to blows in a party, alright? That's pretty bad manners, and then he like did a bad thing, and it's like, he's dying.
Actually, I think, like, going back, I think that's the time you guys went off the rails the most, because he was meant to escape, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna attack him, but he can teleport, and then you all, like, we unleash everything at him, and I'm like...
in, like, 2 seconds. Yeah.
Right, it's like, you all get one hit, and then you guys rolled the best you did the entire campaign, where it's like, how many nat 10s did you roll? It's like, 5. I only rolled 3 dice, and I'm like, how is that possible? But no, like, he was really fun because he was also, like, flirting with Lena, too, and it was just like...
Yeah.
I liked how he was mustache twirling and creepy and terrible, and Cody did want to murder him immediately.
Right. It's always fun to get a reaction.
A little bit.
Did you have, a best player moment of ours? Or was that all
what
of
do you
those?
mean? I hit all 4 of you guys. You all got 1.
Okay.
I don't know what more you want. I mean, your stupid heist was fun.
Yay.
I thought there was a lot of good moments in the games, but those were, like, my fun that I was in with you guys.
Right. Yeah. So last question. What did you learn from this game, and what are you excited to, like, bring to your new campaign?
Never play 7th. No, I learned, like, a lot. Where basically, the way that I put it is, like, I did a lot of things well in City of Mist, and I'm like, I don't have to work on those for Corsairs, and I worked on other things that I think I did well. However, all the things I did well in City of Mist, I completely dropped.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I know how to cook pasta, and then I burnt all of the pasta. But I made some really good mixed vegetables. But no, I think the factions worked decently well. Like, there's some tweaking to do with that. They're, like...
But you liked having them as, like, differing groups with their own goals and...
And, like, I think I did well with, like, NPCs that were very present in the game, better than I usually do.
And it's hard to have an NPC, like, a GM NPC that's just kind of, like, with us all the time. Like, that's a tricky line to walk.
I think I did a good job with Catalina. I love her. Also, I will not be doing that again until I forget how terrible it was to think about doing
Wait
this.
a few years. Yeah.
Right, it's like maybe in 2 campaigns I'll do it again like an idiot, but...
All right. Do you want to sell us on Weird West? Give a little teaser for...
No, just come and watch it, you jerks. I don't have to sell you guys. You're a captive audience. We've been doing this for, 8 years? You're stuck to me.
We're happy to be stuck with you. But for the people at home, what do they have to look forward to in Weird West?
Monsters, ghosts, vampires, hunters, demons, fae galore in an Old West setting.
Heck yeah.
I mean, I can't give you more because I'm still working out a lot of the major and minor
No,
details.
I mean, end on that. Anyway, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed our campaign retrospective, and we will be back with one more. I think when this airs, we'll have one more arc of Wanderlust.
2, I thought.
Not when this airs.
We have too many
Are you sure?
too many arcs of Wanderlust.
I can say it both ways. We will probably have more Wanderlust. You'll know.
Too many and not enough.
Right. And then we'll be back with Zach in Weird West. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep wondering.
Bye.
Bye.